Welcome to the next episode of the Just Peachy Show. My name is Peachie Thompson and I'm your host. Just Peachy is a show where we interview leaders and subject matter experts in the fields of insurance, finance, and taxes. We also have a lifestyle section where we talk about anything and everything under the sun. And today we are going to talk about real estate investing. And today's speaker is an awesome and an expert in short-term and long-term rental investing, Miss Andrea Ducharme. Andrea, welcome and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Peachy. I'm happy to be on here with you today.
Yes, I appreciate you making time for me. I know how busy you are. So tell us, Andrea, tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you get into real estate investing?
Yeah, so my husband and I, we met in Florida and we dated for a while. And then right before we were getting married, somebody recommended to us, I believe it was a coworker of my husband, his name is Max. So a coworker of Max had recommended that if we could try and buy a house as soon as we were able to. And so we were looking at it and we were like, yeah, this makes sense, compared to renting. And so we got in at a good time in the market, unlike today's market.
Oh yeah.
We were able to buy just a small 2-bedroom, 1-bath house in Florida and lived in it for a few years. We're working. And then my husband was transferred for work to the other side of the state. And that's kind of actually where Peachy and I know each other from. So we moved over to the other side. And my husband had this crazy idea that we keep our house and move in with family. And we were both commuting. He was commuting it was an hour one way, and I was commuting an hour and a half for a long time.
I remember that.
Yeah. And so we kept our house and we lived with family. We rented it out. We experimented with long-term rental, and then we switched it to short-term rental. We listed it on Airbnb and Vrbo, and we had a really great experience with it. So when we were looking for a place, a new house, because we didn't want to live with family forever.
Right.
We were specifically looking for something that we could rent out a portion of it. And so we found this really cool, unique, historic home where we had a detached cottage. And so we moved in, we did some updating to the cottage, and then rented it out as a short-term rental, again on Airbnb and Vrbo. And that was going really well. And then my husband, he gets lots of crazy ideas. And so he had
I do remember that as well.
He doesn't like to use the word crazy, though. He likes to use the word creative.
More like eccentric, right?
That's a good word, too. So yeah, we talked about it. And we decided to renovate the back portion of the main part of the house. We had a unique setup with the exterior doors, and we turned that into its own little ensuite. So kind of like a hotel room. It's just like one bedroom you walk into. It had like a closet, bathroom. And so we had ended up with 3 units on the property. We lived in the biggest part, rented out the other 2. And then we had while we were doing all this in Florida, we had an opportunity to purchase my husband's childhood home. And his sister was living in it at the time, and she was unable to purchase it from their mom. And so we were like, hey, we'll buy it. And they wanted to buy it. And so our plan had been that they would eventually buy it from us when they were able to. And we were just kind of like buying it so that they could stay in it and have the potential to get it. And then 2 months in, they say, oh, we're moving. And we're like, oh, okay, cool. Now what do we do with this house?
Right.
So they moved for work, and we decided to experiment with Airbnb again up there in this tiny little town. There's like 6,000 people up here right on the border of Canada. And so we weren't really sure. Most of the Airbnbs around here at the time were on the lake. Everyone's coming up in the summer to go and stay on the lake. Not this is a nice house, but it's in town. It's not like, it's a small town, so you're close to everything. But if people are coming up on vacation, our thought was that they would want to be on the lake. So we're like, well, we'll just see how it goes. And the timing of it just so happened that the timing that we put it on Airbnb was January of 2020.
It's a little too cold up there.
Well, it wasn't so much that. We actually booked up with people wanting to come up in the winter. We were surprised.
Really?
But then March of 2020 happened and everything shut down and everybody canceled. And we were like,
Oh, sure.
cool, now what? Now what do we do? And so there was a little bit of a lull, but there were still people who were coming up for work that needed a place to stay. We have a paper mill here, so they, come up to contract with them. There's all sorts of other businesses. There's some medical facilities that people come up and travel for. So we were getting people like that. It was just a lot slower. And then people were kind of getting tired of being cooped up, and they were like, well, we live in metropolitan areas. Nothing is really open right now. So let's go up north where we can just be out in nature. We have Voyageurs National Park up here. There's lots of stuff to do outside. Fishing, skiing when it's cold, snowmobiling, all sorts of stuff. And so we were getting an influx of people who were we want to get out of the cities. Everything going on down there, in Minneapolis. And so we were getting a lot of people who were coming up, and then people were talking to us about like, this is really nice. We kind of want to make this a more permanent thing. So,
Wait, this is like, okay, I'm gonna back up a little bit.
Yeah,
So when you purchased that property in West Palm Beach, I remember that was in such a nice area that really is it's walkable to a lot of the cool stuff in downtown West Palm Beach, right? And then you have that ensuite in the back where you can actually have it private for people to have their own space, and you guys still have your own space.
Yeah.
And then you purchase Max's childhood home, and this is in the middle of almost like I've never been there, so I was thinking that where is this? Is this in the middle of nowhere? I know you always said it's the border of Canada, but I could just only imagine. And then you thinking, okay, now what? Right? I'm kind of sort of stuck because that wasn't really the original plan. It sounds to me that Andrea things just fell into the right places, right? The pandemic happened, and then it opened up this opportunity. So that is super cool. Is this a trick that you have going on, or is this just your unique way of real estate investing?
Yeah, it kind of is. It's our approach to real estate investing has evolved over the years. When we bought our first home, we were not thinking we were going to keep it. I mean, I thought we were going to live in it for a lot longer, but then Max got transferred, and we were like, okay, now what? And then we were able to keep it and make that work. And things just kind of as we went along happened. We weren't planning it out in 2 years we're going to do this, and in 3 years we're going to do that, that sort of thing. So it just kind of has fallen into place, I guess, for us.
Yes. So really, whether it's luck or your actual approach to it, I think it could be a little bit of both, right?
Yeah.
So Airbnb, some people have concerns about that. For example, it is your property, and are you the one actually managing it? So if you're in West Palm, for example, the property there is who's watching it, right? So do people damage your property? I mean,
yeah, so we have had damage. It's been rare, but it does happen. Especially we've been doing it since 2016 now. So,
oh yeah,
years. That's stuff just happens over time. But on the whole, we've had a really great experience with guests. Most people are very respectful, and then the few times that there's been minimal damage, we've been able to thankfully fix whatever it is really quickly. I have a funny story. There was a guy who he was on vacation down in West Palm, and he was staying at our place, and he got fired over Zoom while he was staying at our place. And
Oh,
you can imagine he was not happy about that, as I don't think anybody would be. And he, in his being upset and angry, he threw a full water bottle, or I think it was a Gatorade bottle, he said, but it was completely full. He threw it at the wall and put a hole in the wall. And he was checking out that day, and we had guests checking in later that day. And so you have like this short, like
oh,
4 to 5 hour window of time
yeah.
to fix it. And, drywall isn't always a really quick fix like that, drying times of things. And so we had to quickly scramble and work with our cleaner / property manager, because we weren't there, to go out and buy a picture to hang over the hole
And cover it.
and cover it as a temporary fix. Thankfully, it was like right over the bed, and we hadn't put a picture over the bed. And so it worked out really
Oh,
well. It was like in a good spot to do something like that. That like people were like, "What's this?" And like, "What's
yeah.
the picture? Why is there this random picture here?"
Yeah, why is there a picture in the middle of the bedroom?
Or this close to the window. Why is there a
Oh,
picture
yeah.
right there? So we've had some interesting experiences like that, and but yeah, like I said, thankfully we've been able to find some really great people to help us. Normally, I like to have somebody who is our cleaner and does little things like that, or if it's something that they can't handle, they will help us in coordinating and meeting a contractor, like a plumber or electrician, AC person, whatever the case is, to help us navigate different things like that, because because we're not normally close by to our Airbnbs.
Yeah. So how do you find those partners?
Yeah, so a lot of times it's by word of mouth, like talking to other people, other hosts in the area. Airbnb actually has a really cool community center where you can connect with other hosts around the world, but also in your community, and get advice from them. I think though I've had also really great success with just going and doing a Google search and looking up cleaners and then talking to them. Like, we've tried a few different ones, and gone through a few different ones until we found one that we trusted and understood what we were trying to do. Short-term rental cleaning is a little bit different than just coming and cleaning your house that you
Regularly,
There's a little bit
yes.
more involved, but I like finding somebody who's also willing to do extra stuff for us, because they're the ones who are cleaning it. They're in the house all the time. A property manager a lot of times just isn't as familiar with the house. They
Right.
aren't in there cleaning and looking at different things and seeing things as they happen.
Sure. So educate us a little bit about the basics of being an Airbnb host.
Okay.
So how does that work, right?
Yeah, so it depends. It depends on how you're doing it. So if you have a place that you aren't living in full time, or you have like a vacation rental or something, it's probably already set up to, all furnished and set up for you. And so that is really easy to get set up and going. It's creating an account on Airbnb and then putting in all the details, getting pictures taken, and there you go. If you're starting from scratch, it's a little more involved, like how we've kind of done it a little bit, like the little cottage when we first moved into West Palm. It didn't have anything, and so we had to completely furnish it and get it all set up. And we like to make them really nice too. So it depends on how you're wanting to do it, and people have different goals, and each place is unique and different. So if you have a cabin in the woods, you're not trying to necessarily make it
Fancy.
you want it to be
You
a
want it to be nice and clean
experience,
and
but you want
yes.
it can be more rustic. It doesn't
Right,
have
rustic,
to be
yes.
as nice and fancy and stuff. And so our locations have always been in a place where we try and make them really nice. And so, at the bare minimum, I always think, okay, what does a hotel provide? So we get like those little toiletries, a little soap, shampoo, body wash, things like that. our goal is to make people feel comfortable. We want them
Sure.
to feel at home and to hopefully come back themselves or to tell their friends like this was, a great experience, a great place to stay, and have those repeat people or referrals. Those are really awesome to get. So then we also though like to go above and beyond kind of what the minimum is what a hotel provides, but then we like to go above that. And so we have we have a little like chalkboard sign that we put like a personal little note, and we'll say, like, for example, our place here in International Falls, we call it the Northern Outpost. And so we say, welcome to the Northern Outpost. And then we put their name on the sign.
Oh, yeah. What a good welcome.
Yeah. And so basically when they first walk in, they see that sign. They also see this little box that we put out that has little chocolates from this really fun kind of candy store that we have in town. And it's got like that store's sticker on it. So we try and find a place to like a small business to showcase. And we've had people contact us and be like, oh, where did these come from? Like they were so good, like we really liked it. And so we're like, partnering with other small businesses in town. We have like a book of pamphlets and things for people, like different touristy things to do, different shops, our favorite restaurants, things like that we kind of advertise for people. It's a small town up here, so we've formed relationships with these, business owners and stuff. So it's cool to partner with them and for them to know like what we're doing and stuff for them. So yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love how everything is well thought through, from the little touches, if you go into a hotel room, I go to a hotel room, there's no sign that says welcome Peachie.
Yeah, right.
Sometimes they do give me like these little biscuits and stuff, but that's about it. So I
Right.
love it. I love that.
Yeah.
So I know you're doing something exciting with Airbnb. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that's actually a funny story. I got invited to be a part of this ambassador program, they call it. And it was like an invitation only thing. And I started getting the emails about the program, like the invites about it, right after I had my second daughter. And so this was in 2020, September of 2020. I had my second daughter, and then she had some health issues. So I was just, slammed with newborn plus navigating, having a toddler as well. And then health issues. And then, just probably about like 6 months later, I'm finally like coming out of that fog, it feels like. And I'm scrolling through my emails. I had seen the emails coming through on a regular basis, and I was just like, oh, let me just, I'll get to that later.
Do it later.
Yeah,
Yes.
and later was 6 months later. So I finally sit down when I get the final invite email that says, we're not going to reach out to you again. This is your last chance. And I'm like, okay, let me see
That always works.
what is going on here. So I reach out, I schedule a call with the lady to find out more because I'm like, oh, this sounds interesting. And she's talking to me about it. And basically it's a way to have people who are hosts on Airbnb who are super hosts, which means you have to have met certain like criteria, like 5-star reviews, you respond really quickly to guests, things like that. And they were inviting a certain number of us to be a part of this program to help other people who are interested in becoming hosts. So you're a brand new host, you don't know what you're doing a lot of times. We experimented so much, we were kind of like, oh, let's try it this way. Oh, let's try it this way. And so mistakes are made. And so basically they were looking for super hosts to come alongside people and kind of walk them through the process, help them avoid some of the mistakes that we may have made, help them navigate just learning the system, where to find things. We didn't have anything like that. And so she's talking to me. I'm like, yeah, that's something I'd be interested in. And she's telling me more about the program. And then she mentioned something about that there's a small group who are doing webinars. And I kind of latched onto that. And I don't think she was telling me about it to invite me to that. Like thinking back on it, I think it was more of just information. But I kind of latched onto that and I was like, I kind of want to do that. I think that's something that would work
Yeah.
really well for me. And so she's like, oh, you would? Okay. And she's like asking me questions and I'm like, yeah, I could totally do that. Yep, no problem. I can talk to people all day long about this stuff. So, so yeah.
And it fits your personality too perfectly.
Yeah.
So,
So I've been doing webinars for Airbnb, just an intro to hosting on Airbnb webinar, and that's how I get a lot of the connections that I've made with new hosts, and I can basically walk them through setting up their listing, helping them answer any questions that they might have, helping them navigate those first couple guests if they're like, oh, a guest is asking me this or this happened. I've had hosts ask me questions like that, and I'm able to either jump on a call with them. Most of the time it's just through the Airbnb app and just like texting back and forth. But I've done like Zoom walkthroughs with people, looking at their places to give them just suggestions, recommendations for things, because there are some like quote unquote rookie mistakes you can make. And so if
sure.
we can help other people avoid that, they're going to have a much better experience and be hopefully more successful than they would have been otherwise.
Yeah, that sounds cool. Does this cost anything to this new host?
Nope, it is completely free. The webinar is free. It's on Airbnb. They basically do all the advertising for it, and you can go on and sign up for one of the webinars, and then yeah, it's a really, really cool program that I kind of wish had been around when we started.
Yeah, so this is fairly new, it sounds like.
Yeah, just a few years now. So
Okay.
yeah, and it's really cool because it's done very well. And so they have actually expanded the program, and we have like a dedicated team of people that work for Airbnb that help us and are like in charge of this program. Because before it was just kind of like, let's try this out, and hey, like you tack it on to all the other things you do, help these ambassadors figure out what to do. And so it was hard to like connect, but now we have a dedicated team and they're constantly like working on and changing things so to help us.
Yes, that definitely sounds like an improvement, because if I were thinking of becoming an Airbnb host, I wouldn't know where to start, right?
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
always helpful to have someone like you who can guide, especially if it's a free resource. It's a huge investment to have another property and rent it out, both short term and long term.
Yep.
So, and I love what you're doing being a host. So obviously it's not for everybody, right? So who would you say is a good fit if we have listeners right now who are actually already Airbnb hosts and now they're thinking, hey, actually, if okay, I'm going to back up. So you gotta cut that. Okay, Andrea? Who do you think would be a good fit to be a host?
Yeah, so I think a good host is really somebody who's looking to be a part of a community, like the Airbnb community, and that includes other hosts and guests, and just wanting to showcase their community where they're located. It's a really cool opportunity to bring people either into your own home or an investment property that you feel, that you want to make people feel comfortable and welcome in, and then showcase the community where that home is located. Obviously, there's also, it's a good fit for people who are looking for some extra income. That's a obvious perk to it as well. But
Sure.
yeah, I think people who really want to be a part of a community and then showcase their community that's who this is for.
So I have a question. If someone just wants to get started, what would be the first thing? Is there a special consideration as far as, say, property insurance is concerned, right? Or do you need special other legal stuff that you need to do?
That's a great
So,
question. So, Yeah, there is some stuff that, depending on the situation, makes sense. So, like the legal things, some people will set up an LLC. It's not always necessary. It really depends on your area, like where the Airbnb is going to be located, and if you're going to be living on or like in the home, because there's Airbnbs that are just they rent out a portion of their home and they live in it, kind of like what we did with the ensuite.
Right.
Or there's where it's, completely separate. It's its own thing. The host doesn't live there. So depending on the situation, it might make sense to do certain things or not, like the LLC. And it depends on what your goals are too. And so I always recommend people talk to a real estate professional about that, as far from a real estate lawyer. A lot of times it can be really helpful in figuring out like what makes sense, because a lot of times, especially when you're just getting started, it doesn't make sense. It's overkill. It's unnecessary. But maybe you have other investment properties. So like for us, because we have a mixture of long and short-term rental properties, it makes sense for us and just what we're doing. We have a property management company as well, and so we have like this whole LLC structure. But to somebody who's just getting started, it might seem like really overwhelming, and it might be unnecessary. When we got started, we didn't do that. We didn't have any type of LLC. But then your insurance question is really cool, because Airbnb specifically actually has what they call air cover. And so that is insurance for hosts. There's also a portion of it that's like insurance for the guests, like travel insurance type thing. But the host part is really cool because it's complimentary. It comes with every reservation. You don't have to like opt into it or pay extra for it. And it's something where you basically, there's a whole long list of things that it covers, but the overview is $1 million of liability insurance and $1 million of personal injury insurance, or property damage. So liability and property damage. And that's 1 million per the reservation, not like per the year.
Total.
Yeah. And so that's a really cool thing that Airbnb has worked really hard to make accessible to hosts. And so, obviously like people may feel more comfortable to get some extra insurance, like umbrella coverage or something. Normally umbrella coverage isn't that expensive. So that might make sense.
That doesn't, yeah, it doesn't hurt. It certainly doesn't hurt.
Exactly. So we've actually decided to do that, or have like a higher limit on our regular insurance policies, because like, I don't know, it was really minimal. I can't remember how much it was, but for X amount of minimal dollars a year, we were like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, sure. So, it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, but we've never needed to use it. We've had to use air cover a few times when there's been those instances of small damage, but other than that, it's just there for peace of mind, which is really great.
Yeah, most insurance are there, hopefully just for peace of mind. Exactly. And you never have to use it, at least. Hopefully that's the hope. Yeah. So how does Airbnb make money off of a host?
Great question. So, what they do is they charge per the reservation. So if you've ever been a guest, you may have seen where you're looking to book a place and you see kind of like what the subtotal is, and then you go to actually reserve, and the total is quite a bit more than that subtotal. So Airbnb has a couple different ways of doing it, but one of the main ways of getting their cut from the reservation is to charge a fee to the guest, which is called the guest service fee, and then charge a fee to the host. And it's a percentage of that booking subtotal that they take. So that's why like when you go to the next page, you're like, whoa, it's $100 more than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Something like that. And so they take a cut basically from the guest and the host, and there's a percentage for those that they do.
So with that, they offer this free service of being a resource to new hosts, and they offer free insurance, it sounds like. Are there other stuff that they...
Yeah. They have 24/7 customer service for guests and hosts, which is really awesome because stuff happens 24/7.
Sure.
So,
Especially when you're dealing with properties.
right, yeah, and people staying in your property. So you can call them up anytime. You can chat with them online anytime, and yeah. So those are the main resources. They also have just like a resource center for host, and then like the community center that I had mentioned for hosts connecting with other hosts around the world.
Very cool. Very cool. So, if someone is interested in getting involved in some of the ways the creative ways that you've mentioned, where should they start?
Yeah, so a good place to start is just talking to more people, and I would be happy to talk with anybody who's listening. Peachy, I don't know, I forgot to ask you this before. I can give you my work email and for people to reach out if you want to put that in the show notes.
Oh, absolutely. So actually, that's my last question, Andrea. If someone have any
Yeah.
questions and they want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Yes, so we'll put the email in the show notes, but it's office, OFFICE, at Cedarwick, cedar like the tree, WICK.LLC. That is a really good place to get connected with me. And then also if they're interested specifically in Airbnb and maybe like attending the intro to Airbnb hosting webinar, they can email me and I can send them the links for connecting on specifically Airbnb and like where to find the webinars and stuff. But I'd be happy to talk with people just about our experience, things that we've gone through, any specific questions people might have. It's something I could talk about.
And you are just super awesome. I appreciate it. Andrea, this has been very, very informative. I am so grateful that you made time for me and for us today. And I look forward to the next time I see you.
Yes, I look forward to that as well. Thank you so much,
All
Pete.
right. Thank you. I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye. Information shared during the show are opinions of the speakers. They are not legal, financial, or tax advice specific to you. Consult your own specialist, attorney, accountant, financial planner, or insurance advisor for your specific situation.